If you've been playing guitar for any amount of time, then you know how challenging and frustrating it can be to learn the F bar chord. So how are you supposed to play all of the songs that you love if you can't play the F bar chord? Well, my name is Nate Savage, and in this video, I want to give you 7 tips for starting to master the F bar chord today. All right, I've got a PDF for you with all of these tips on them, and that includes the clean bar checklist. We'll talk more about that when we get to one of these tips. But the first tip is to start doing things incrementally. You don't have to jump into, the full-blown F major bar chord right away. What you can do is progressively start out with this F, the 3-note F. If you've never seen that before, 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the D string, 2nd finger, 2nd fret of the G string, and then index finger, 1st finger on the 1st fret of the B string. And just start there as a way, kind of a baseline starting point. Once you get that down, you can flatten your index finger out to do a little mini bar on the high E string and B strings. And it's a little bit different feeling than most of the chords you've probably learned if you're just, been focusing on your open chords, but that's a really good stepping stone. And then you can finally, once you have that down, you can work on playing the full F bar chord. So don't feel like you have to just jump into this. There are some steps you can do to kind of ease yourself into it. Tip number 2 is to work on the bar by itself first. And to help you with this, I have something from the Bar Chord Masterclass, one of the premium courses on the Guitar Fam site, to help you get your bar down on its own first. Because if you just jump into a bar chord, full thing, odds are if you don't have your technique for your bar really ironed out and your fingers strong, your hands strong, then you're gonna have trouble making the whole chord. So here is the clean bar checklist for you. Number 1, get your guitar set up if you haven't already. Just getting your guitar set up, making sure the action is as low as possible with no buzzing, might make things a lot easier for you, especially depending on your own particular guitar. Number 2 for the clean bar checklist, and this may seem really obvious, is don't even worry about the whole chord at first. Just worry about getting the bar down and start kind of moving it around the fretboard. That'll come into play more a little bit here, but don't worry necessarily. Yeah, practice putting the bar chord on, but also put some time in with just the bar. That'll be really important. Okay, this one may seem a little really obvious too, but I'm putting the bar on with a clamp-like motion between my index finger and my thumb, right? And you'll find that you may not need to be killing, squeezing on the strings as hard as you are. Maybe more about technique than it is about how hard you're squeezing the guitar, but that's a good kind of neutral starting point, is just thumb right behind the index finger on the back of the neck. All right, number 4 for the clean bar checklist is put your bar right behind the fret. It almost looks like my finger is on the fret, but it's not, it's right behind the fret. If it's towards the middle of the back, you're gonna have to push way harder than you would if your finger was right behind the fret. All right, number 5 is experiment with the vertical placement of your bar, because the creases in your finger are one of the reasons why it's so hard to get a clean sound, especially out of the B and G string sometimes. So experiment with the vertical placement, and it's gonna be different for everyone. All right, the 6th point of the clean bar checklist is to tilt your finger back a little bit onto the edge of the finger. Instead of playing, completely parallel to the strings like this with your finger, tilt it back a little bit, and that'll give you more of an edge to push down on. And my finger isn't straight, even if I do that. It's kind of curved as well, so keep that in mind. All right, and the last tip for the clean bar checklist will be to not kink your wrist too far one way or the other. If you kink it too far this way, it's gonna be impossible to make that bar clean. If you kink it too far this way, it's gonna be hurting after a while. So all of these things come under this point of this topic of just getting the bar down on its own. So a really good exercise is to just remember all these things and go through this list on the PDF I have for you and just work on playing your bar up and down the fretboard. Think about being right behind the fret, think about vertical finger placement, all of these things, tilting your finger back. And of course, building strength over time too is really important. Okay, on to tip number 3, and that is to make the E chord shape with these 3 fingers, 2, 3, and 4 on its own. That'll help you build that coordination. So we're kind of dividing the challenge. We worked on the bar on its own. Now we're gonna work just on the shape on its own. So get to where you can play an E major chord with your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers just as easily as if you're doing it with your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers. And that may take a while, but that's okay. Treat it just like you're learning a new open chord. Tip number 4 is put them together. Once you've divided the challenge of the bar and the shape with these 3 fingers, then you can put them together and you'll have some more success with this. So when you do this, putting them together, what's gonna happen probably is your fingers are probably gonna go down at separate times. That's okay for now. You have to start somewhere, right? So, but just get them on as good as you can. And while you're doing it, Think about your bar technique, how you're making your bar, and try to play the same way as you were when you were working just on the bar on its own. And just notice which fingers are coming in last, because we're going to take care of that in the next tip. But that's where you have to start too. And then playing it on the first fret is the hardest place you can play this, because it's closer to that. That means there's more tension down here on the first fret. So, you know, as an intermediate kind of starting point, maybe move the shape up to a G a couple frets, or, you know, an F sharp even. And then work your way down to an F. All right, tip number 5 is to work on landing the plane all at once, or 3-point touchdown all at once. In other words, get all your fingers to where they can go down at the same time on the chord. Because the last thing you want to be doing is chugging along and then taking a while to get your F in place, and it's going to sound kind of muddy and muddly. So what you want to do is, no matter how long it takes, if you sit here and it takes 30 seconds for you to take control and independence of all your fingers to land all at the same time, that's what you want to shoot for. And it takes some discipline to work on this and to get control, because you're pushing with this finger and pulling with this finger and pushing with these, so it's very contrary, some contrary motion. But you want to work on landing all of your fingers at once. And this might be the most frustrating part for some people, maybe not, but I find that this is a little bit more frustrating for a lot of people, is getting to where you can land it all at once, because it is like the last 10% of the chord, the F chord, to make it really usable in song situations. All right, the last 2 tips are the easiest sounding ones, but they are pretty hard. Number 6 is be consistent with your practice. This takes time for most people. Some people go to an F bar chord right away, and we'll deal with those people later. But for most people, it takes a lot of consistent practice. So, you know, every day, 15 minutes for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it takes, as long as you're seeing progress, that's what you need to do. So just be very consistent with your practice. And tip number 7, this kind of follows the other one, is try to practice multiple times a day if you can. This type of practice with bar chords, you can only go so long your hand gets tired and worn out. So instead of pushing through that, you know, maybe practice for 5 or 10 minutes on your bar chords, and then put the guitar away, or practice something else, and then come back in the afternoon or the evening and do another round of it. If you're consistent with your practice, doing it multiple times a day like that, you will see progress if you stick with it. Okay, that's it for the 7 tips. I know those kind of a lot here, but we have that PDF for you to check out that lists all 7 tips, as well as a clean bar checklist. And if you implement these things and stick to them, you will get better. You will see progress, and that means you'll be closer to playing the songs that you love. But if you think to yourself, oh, it'll just come naturally, you kind of run the risk of never quite getting to the F bar chord, or any bar chord for that matter, as far as this topic is concerned. And that means, you know, you run the risk of not being able to play the songs you love, or maybe even quitting guitar altogether, because this is a really frustrating point for a lot of guitarists. So to help ensure that you have success with the F bar chord, or bar chords in general, I have some steps that you can follow. Step number 1 is to go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account. That gives you access to the first module of all of our premium courses, and the bar chord masterclass is one of those courses. You can start that today for free. Step number 2 is to practice. And that's going to be a really important part that's on you. Step number 3 is to get some real life feedback on your playing with me. All Guitar Fam members, even if it's just a complimentary account, get a personal, private, one-on-one complimentary lesson with me. So you can schedule that. We can check out your bar chords and iron out a plan for success for the next 6 months to a year of your playing. And there's no obligation with this private lesson either. If you can't swing private lessons right now, that's totally cool. I still love to meet with you. There are options for everyone. We have the Guitar Fan membership that unlocks all of the premium courses for you. You can either do $9.97 a month or $97 a year. And if you still can't swing that, you still have your complimentary account, which gets you access to the first module of all of our premium courses anyways. I'm looking forward to meeting you and hearing about your success with bar chords. And do someone a favor, if you know someone that's struggling with bar chords, share this video with them. They will love you for it. I'll see you later.